All right, crypto aficionados, and we got some news for you. So it seems like what I was excited about, the chance of Patrick McHenry's speakership has been shuttled, but not by the Democrats, but by the Republicans themselves, because they are dead set, at least one wing of their party is dead set on Jim Jordan. Also, I'm not really even sure McHenry really wants the role, because who the heck wants to be the GOP speaker right now anyways, besides Jim Jordan? Because one member of the House could basically tank your whole speakership. And as we've seen with McCarthy, you really can't govern right now with like the two wings kind of opposing each other and you having such a slim margin in Congress. So it does look like the more extreme party versions of the party, despite that the fact that Jim Jordan actually does Patrick McHenry, have completely tanked this idea, and they're not going to offer the resolution of Patrick McHenry as interim speaker. The more extreme wings of the party seem to be of the mindset that if they don't get their way, then, it's the highway. But they're also forgetting that there's like 16 or 17 Biden district Republicans whose districts probably do not want them to vote for a MAGA person and rather prefer Jeffries instead, their districts, because they are swing districts. And more people in these districts, they're in New York for the most part, actually voted for Biden than Trump. And the thing is, I'm just waiting for some of those districts to rage quit and just go swing over to Jeffries, just so I could get a good laugh out of it. And plus, I think he would be fine speaker anyways. So the thing is, I actually prefer the solution of McHenry because A, because he's more moderate, and B, because he is a very strong pro-crypto advocate. And if you're a pro-crypto person, you should be advocating for McHenry because it's not like, he's just saying good stuff about crypto all of a sudden. McHenry has been a very, very strong crypto advocate all along. So there's no reason you wouldn't actually push for a bipartisan support of McHenry. Yes, he might be kind of hard capped because he had to make some compromises with both parties to form a coalition government. But in terms of for crypto, I think he would actually block a lot of the Elizabeth Warren stuff, and he could actually bring up legislation for crypto that's good for the entire industry, because him and Tom Emmer have been fighting for crypto for a long time. I was really hoping this would happen. Yes, it would only be for 100 days through January, but I think a lot of good could actually be done through that 100 days, especially since Elizabeth Warren has a bipartisan letter signed by 100 congressmen to actually control crypto, that is basically telling Biden to actually do stuff to control crypto. I do think we need a counterbalancing act in the other House of Congress with Patrick McHenry, Cynthia Lummis, and others, and someone of that ilk kind of having control of the House of Representatives definitely would help us. So I'm kind of upset by this development. It's not too surprising to me because the MAGA wing of the government will basically tank anything that doesn't fit directly to their agenda at this point. And even I think Hakeem Jeffries actually did say that he was willing to actually back Patrick McHenry if certain conditions were actually met, but it does not look like the Republican conference is going to give people that option, because I think that is an option that would have been workable as well. That would have been really good for crypto, but now it's not going to happen. They are set on Jim Jordan losing yet again a vote for speakership. I think if he loses a couple more times, I do think the support for a McHenry speakership will actually build, and I'm kind of hoping that's going to happen. And they're under a deadline because remember, the government's going to shut down in about a month, and I do think they will elect McHenry before that. I think that's what the MAGA wing's actually afraid of. They're afraid of that McHenry gets elected and the government doesn't shut down. Because in their eyes, a government shutdown actually hurts Biden, which in this case it won't, because the House is Republican controlled and it's completely dysfunctional, and they're the reason for the shutdown. So I think their calculus is very much misguided. The SEC has charged Genesis, Gemini, and DCG for basically fraud. And this particular case actually does have merit because remember, people in Gemini Earn lost a lot of money. Now, I think the main defendant is Genesis and DCG because they actually owe Gemini a lot of money. Maybe Gemini is being charged by association because they didn't warn their Earn investors enough. A lot of Gemini Earn investors were actually caught off guard by this because they were like, oh, I thought our money was with Gemini, but Gemini did have a disclaimer saying that, this is actually managed by third parties, and people just didn't read the disclaimer. That's not a surprise. People often don't read disclaimers. So I think Gemini should have actually made that a lot more clear that there was a much more increased risk if you go with this earned product. And that's probably why they're being sued. Now, unlike the SEC versus like, Coinbase case or SEC versus Ripple case, I'm actually not against the government in this case because those companies did cost people a lot of money, especially DCG and Genesis. They literally lost all their money in FTX and they weren't supposed to be that risky in the first place. I don't really know if DCG and Genesis, they're also being sued by Gemini, by the way. So it's like the co-defendants in this case are suing each other. Well, Gemini is suing them because they lost them a lot of money. So I'm not really sure if they can beat the government in this case. And it's not actually the SEC suing them. It is the New York Attorney General on behalf of the people that were defrauded. So in this specific case, I'm actually not against the government. I kind of hope the government wins in this case because people need to be made aware that you shouldn't take these risks with customers' money. Like Genesis had I think $1 billion or something with FTX that completely fell apart. And Genesis was not being honest with Gemini on their funds because Genesis directly asked SBF for a $500 million loan so they can stay solvent even before FTX fell apart. So even before FTX fell apart, they were completely insolvent because the market was already going down. They were being tanked. And they had to ask Sam Bankman-Fried of all people for a lifeline. Now, I'm not really sure if SBF agreed to give them a lifeline. He might have not. I don't really know. But regardless of actually what he did, this is very, very egregious in my opinion that they actually had to ask him for a lifeline in the first place. So obviously a lot of bad money management in there. And I hope Gemini actually wins that case. But it's like borrowing from Peter to save Paul. Basically Gemini owes their customers money, Gemini earn. Genesis and DCG owe their customers money. So if you take money from one party, you're going to give to the other party. Obviously, one party is going to get less reimbursement and one party is going to get more reimbursement. So there's the net pool of money for customer reimbursement stays the same. It's just which customers are going to get more. And obviously there's going to be infighting between the customers because each side wants more from the settlement. That's no surprise at all. So I think this case being brought up by the New York AG actually does have a lot of merit because these are people that have actually defrauded people. The New York AG isn't suing because they might defraud someone. They're actually suing because they have defrauded people and people have lost hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in this lawsuit. Now, for those of you worried about Gemini, Gemini is fine. Their finances are, fine. Earn was kind of they had the disclaimer that Earn was part of something else. And I think they have enough money to cover it anyways for the most part. They just want the money back. DCG and Genesis, I don't really know how they're actually going to fare at all. I think Genesis is just going to go bankrupt. DCG might actually become insolvent, and that might, because DCG owns Grayscale, so they might actually have to sell Grayscale to someone else. I don't really know how that's going to play because Grayscale just got their ETF kind of basically approved by the court. They haven't gotten approved by the SEC yet, but that might actually happen soon. So I'm not really sure how that's going to go into effect. If Genesis has to divest it, not really sure how that's going to play out. But it's going to be really, really interesting to see how all this plays out. But this particular case, I actually do side with the New York AG on because I do think those customers do actually need more representation. And these companies do need to be punished because of negligence and fraud. The Cardano social media app has actually gone live. This is the first social media app by Cardano that's actually gone live. And it's called Spot. So Cardano Spot launched Cardano's first ever social media application. It's not called Spot, but Spot actually launched it. The emerging social media network platform built to empower and connect Cardano enthusiasts is now set up to help native projects. So basically, it's an advanced platform for onboarding Cardano native projects and their communities. It's mainly for Cardano, but I hope they expand it just for general stuff because I think the market there is a lot bigger, and I think Cardano could benefit a lot from it. So emerging Cardano-based DeFi projects to topics such as how to create non-fungible tokens on Cardano. The platform has been developed on community-based feedback and direction and now available on iOS and Android devices. Very, very nice. I 100% support this. I do think this will actually support Cardano. I just want them to actually expand it into other areas and not just specifically for the Cardano community. I'm always interested in a decentralized version of Twitter. I don't think a decentralized version of YouTube would actually work, but I think a decentralized version of Twitter would would actually work, right? And this could be the laying the foundations from it. Although right now it's just mainly for the Cardano community to onboard new projects. So that's a pretty cool project for Cardano. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.